Welcome to Let's Talk All Things Art. I'm your host, Julie Whitney Scott, and I have with me today a person who is an artist who takes pictures. Yeah, baby. She's a photographer. Her name is Kimberly Cole, and I'm so happy that she's with us today so she can talk to us about what it is to be a photographer and all that good stuff. Kimberly, welcome to Let's Talk All Things Art.
Thank you, Julie. Thanks for having me.
I am so happy that you're here with me today. What I like for us to do before we start anything is for the artist to get an idea of who you are, Kimberly, and how did you become an artist in the photography world?
Sure. I would consider myself a born artist, if that makes any sense at all. I feel like I must have came out of my mother's womb doing art in whatever form I could at whatever level that was possible. I've literally been doing visual and performance art since I can remember, honestly. So probably always loved taking pictures. What I realize is now old technology, using the little disposable cameras, using a Polaroid. My parents had a Polaroid, loved using that. And then just eventually when I was about 18, 19, started doing wedding photography. Just got out there and said, hey, I'm going to try something new. Joined a company, a young Black female who had her own wedding photography business, and just started there. Actually, was with her for 3 years. I've probably done, I don't know the actual count, but at least about 50 weddings in that time period, and of all types and all places. And that just really kind of started that trajectory. And since then, I've been doing photography for different events. Did a lot of things for nonprofits and a lot of their events. And yeah, that's just really how it got started. Studied photography in school a little bit, did even film development, things like that. Don't do much of that now, would have to revisit all of that. But yeah, I love taking photos.
I remember those instant cameras. I call myself, Kimberly, an amateur photographer. For my family, they would get so sick of me. They'd be like, you always got the camera out. You always got a video. When I was like 12 years old, I asked for the Polaroid camera and took the pictures right then. I mean, I had, like you, I had every camera, but I never really at that time saw taking pictures as an art. I saw it as just as a documentary of the family. I just wanted to just take pictures. Talk to us about that, about what makes the difference between somebody like me, who just always wanted to make sure I'm taking pictures of everything that's happening in the family, and making a documentary of these events, versus the person that actually uses that camera lens as an artist.
Sure. That's an excellent question, Julie. I've never really thought about it, but I would say what you're doing is the art. I would think the majority of us, the point of taking pictures is to document, correct? Even if I'm taking pictures of you and your family, and it's not my family, I'm doing a service for you and your family to document that moment in time. And I think it's through photography that I realized the importance of taking pictures even of yourself. I don't really do a lot of pictures of myself. And now that I'm older, I realize that you can't look back and be like, oh, that's what I looked like then, or this is what I wore to that event, or everyone said I was beautiful on this day and I have pictures of that. And when you're not doing that, when you're not documenting those moments, you're actually missing parts of history that are important, that maybe you're not able to relive just with the verbiage. So I would say you're definitely an artist. Now, on a more technical aspect, I would say the difference is when you do have that person who's being paid to do the photography. I'll just use a wedding as an example. And you always have that point in the reception or after the wedding where everyone wants to take pictures and everyone's kind of, competing for that space. Well, someone actually is being paid to do that, and they need to be able to do that. And I think that's where kind of the difference is knowing if you're not the person who's the official photographer for something, that let them have that space. But also on the flip side, the official photographer should allow other people to have a moment to take those photos as well. So it's kind of a give and take.
Yeah, that's really good. I never, I know I'm always mindful, like you said, when I'm at events and there are people that are actually being paid to take those pictures, of trying not to get in their way. You know what I mean? I kind of stand to the side of, some people I see just come right in front of them, like, and it's like, don't you see them standing here?
Yeah.
So, so it's one of those things that I'm glad you're bringing that out, because a lot of people aren't even mindful of that. You know that, hey, you're blocking the person that's being paid. These people are paying for these pictures. You're blocking that aspect. So, yeah. Do you see, Kimberly, a difference? Because this keep talking about the photography as an art. Another reason that I didn't think I was an artist in regards to taking pictures, photographs, was because I thought, well, that's only like if you're taking pictures of you take flowers, or you're one of the people that you are taking pictures of the birds. You're something, specific to just one thing, or you take landscapes, those kind of things. Are you saying, or is there a difference between that? Or is it, if you take a picture and you do it on a consistent basis, what really would make you feel like you're an artist? Because art, you know what I'm saying? The difference between that, because like you said, people are paying people to take a picture of a wedding, but then you have people out there that are taking these other pictures, of humans in doing on everyday life. Talk about that.
Yes, that's also really good. I think, let me also clarify, I don't think that being paid necessarily makes the difference either of who should be a professional and who shouldn't be. Part of the reason I actually don't do a lot of professional photography now, and part of the reason is because I prefer natural lighting. I really do not like using flash photography. And what I noticed is, once the technology became more mainstream and commercial, and just anybody can buy a camera, it's like this competition to see who can have the most equipment, who can have the biggest camera, and who can have the greatest flash. And to me, that's not the point at all. And so I actually kind of backed out, because I started to see people who I would consider not having the eye. And that would be the way that I differentiate. The eye doesn't necessarily look the same in everyone, but it's more about the artistry of framing a story in that moment. And so whether that's a portrait, whether it's landscape, whether it's candid photography, because that goes back, you were talking about event photographers. If someone's doing an event, they should be familiar with the fact that people are flowing. And that's up to the photographer to be able to move in stealth and whatnot and get the photos that they want. That's what I personally believe. But I think it's about catching a story. And if you're I don't know what the philosophy is, or, can you be taught to do it, or do you have to be born? I'm not going to get into all of that. I'm not sure. But I think there is a difference between someone, I'm just taking a picture because I have this really nice big camera, versus someone who's like, I don't care if I have a disposable camera. I'm going to get this picture and it's going to be framed, and framing meaning, you're thinking about the background, you're thinking about the subject, you're even, I want this in focus and this not. And you don't even have to have all the technical jargon. It's just more about knowing that moment and like, this is what I'm going to capture. That's the best way I guess I could say it.
Yeah, like you said, the eye, that's what I was thinking about. That's what you kind of hear people say, they have an eye for seeing something. And that's how I think sometimes the photography, it moves into the cinematograph of taking movies, of filming, because you have to have that. It's a frame that you just talked about. What's in the frame?
Yes.
Versus, are we just trying to get get everybody in the frame?
Yes.
So we can see you, versus is there something else that we're trying to get in that frame? Yeah, that's really, really good, Kimberly. Really good. Kimberly, if you you brought up the fact that like everybody has a camera now, and also versus the big camera. Now, like I said, I've always been a camera buff. I try to get cameras, like I got this Canon stuff, and I got the lenses that you put on there, got this great big deal, you know what I mean? And I'm just happy as a lamb, because I, got this nice Canon set, but I don't know what to do with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm still holding it up, putting the lens on, not, like, well, maybe that'll work or whatever. And just have really been self-taught with every camera that I have got. I've got all those cameras that you talked about. I have had them and have them. But I don't know what to do with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm still holding it up, putting the lens on, not, like, well, maybe that'll work or whatever. And just have really been self-taught with every camera that I have got. I've got all those cameras that you talked about. I have had them and have them. I found myself getting away from using the actual camera now. I used to, and I don't know if it had something to do with COVID or not, because before COVID, I used to be very out in the community with my camera, not my iPhone, with my camera strapped around my, taking pictures of framing, like you said, at all the festival events and stuff. I used to, if you check my stuff, you'll see, like, you could see what was going on in the city just by going to some of my Facebook pages, because I documented it all by videotaping and taking pictures.
Mm-hmm.
But now, like you said, everybody's taking pictures and stuff. And I found myself kind of getting away from that. And like I said, I don't know if it's because it was COVID happened, and then we had that break, where there was nothing.
Yes.
And once it picked back up, as it's slowly picking back up and coming up, it's like, oh, I just got my camera. Tell us, our audience, what is it? What makes the difference between us just wanting to pop out our phone and just tick, 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 versus actually having a camera with you and taking quality pictures with that kind of equipment?
I would say this touches upon something I've been like philosophically throwing out to other artists and people I talk to, because I have a rich history of different mediums, not just even photography. And there's a lot of those mediums that I don't revisit regularly right now. And it's like, so can I still say that I'm an artist in that medium? Can I still say that I do this art if I'm not practicing it? So with that being said, I think there's something about intentionality. So like, you don't have to be getting paid to do the art. But I think there's something to be said about that person who wakes up and they're like, I have to take pictures today. Like there's no question. Or even if they're not even consciously thinking it, it's just an automatic, I grab my camera, I'm going somewhere, my camera comes with me. For some of us, that might be a notebook. For some of us, it might be our paper and pen. And I think whatever that is, for me, is actually music. So even though I'm not performing all the time, that is the one thing I think about every single day is performing. I can be in my car listening to music. I can be at home listening to music. And I'm just constantly thinking about myself performing. So I know that that's something that I'm supposed to be doing because it's the thing that I think about all the time. Part of why with photography, why I don't do it professionally as much now is because that passion that I had, I'm going to grab my camera, I'm ready to go to this wedding and take these photos. It started to become kind of a drag in some ways. And I don't think that's a knock to anyone. It's just where I was after a certain point in life. But I do still take photos at the same time. The intentionality is different. I'm not taking them to get money. I'm not taking them to impress anybody. I'm taking it because that's a beautiful scene. And I want to remember that. Boom. Or these people, I love these people. We're all together. Let's take a picture. Boom. Going back to what you were talking about, keeping that historical record. Something I started doing is I love to travel, and I travel a lot internationally as well. And what I do is when I'm standing in an ocean or any kind of body of water, or, doing something that's very different, I will take a picture of my feet in the sand and the water. I'll do a picture, and I also do a little video so I can remember that feeling. I can remember that look, what I saw in that moment. And I also see that as a way of me keeping a record for myself, because what if one day I don't have a good memory and I can't actually remember that? So now I have a video, hopefully, that I'll keep, that I can be like, oh, I was there and that happened. So again, just like the intentionality behind it. I'm not sure that it's really a right or wrong or you're better and I'm not type of thing. It's just like, what's the purpose?
Kimberly, and you bring that up too, which says to me that it's one of those things that as we get older as artists, that we are more mindful of. Like you said, we could forget. I can't remember when I'm talking to people sometimes, and they'll talk to me about some play I wrote or something I did, and I'll be like, I did, then and it's one of those things like, oh yeah, I did write that. Oh yeah, you did perform in that play, because I didn't document it as just took the time to individually document what I was doing. Just all about the art that was done and that you can go back and look at and go back and have to pull out playbills and but actually, like you said, taking a picture of your feet right there, that is right there in the moment. It's you.
Yes.
It's you. So I'm glad that we brought that up, and that you brought up, especially that you said that word intentionally. That as artists, we have to intentionally keep a record of what we are doing. And it's not like a resume, because some people think, I think it's different. Let's talk about that. People think this the resume, and it's not about the resume. I did this on this day and this day and this, that, and I've got 3 pages of all that. We're talking about something different, aren't we, Kimberly? In regards to our documentation of intentionally documenting what we do. Let's talk a little bit more about that for the listeners out there, so they can understand what we're talking about when we say as artists, we have to also document what we do.
Yes. And I love that we're thinking on the same vein, because I was going to say the same thing. There's so many things that I've done that I forgot that I did. And it's not about, I don't even think it's about glorifying yourself. It's more about the growth. Like everyone should be able to see their progress. And not only just to be able to celebrate yourself and the impact that you've possibly made or your art has possibly made, but so that you can get better. So like one thing I don't do well with my performance pieces is I don't look back at my performances. I don't like watching myself perform. But without doing that, then I'm sort of having to go off of my memory and like, okay, I didn't like when I did that or whatever, and trying to remember what that was like versus actually having, like a athlete who watches the video, the plays over and over. That goes back to that intentionality. How am I trying to get better? How am I trying to better my art, better myself? So whether that, it doesn't have to be watching a video, it could be just whatever that practice is. What are you doing to make sure that you're growing? I think it's very easy to become complacent, especially once you start making money, if you get to that place, because, there's sort of this validation and that's coming externally. And then, once you get to that certain place, maybe it's like, okay, well, I've made it kind of thing. Or, as long as I'm getting this much. But then, I personally like to challenge people. What would you do if you didn't have the money? Would you still be doing this art if you weren't getting paid? And that's been really interesting in this new day job I have, funding artists. It's interesting to see how some people are like, they're doing everything they can. They're out there cheerleading for their projects, they're getting mad support, this and that and this. But you have some people who feel entitled, like, oh, well, I should just get this sum of money because my project is great. Oh, well, but there are like hundreds of other people who also have great projects. So what are you doing to make your project relate to everyone else so that everyone wants to support you? It's really like this is huge give and take, I feel like, in art, because I think there's this portion where if you are really and truly, everyone I think is an artist in some kind of way, but if you consider yourself an artist, it's like you cannot go a day without doing whatever it is that you love to do, period. You can't go a day without it. So that's not about making money. That's about you needing to fulfill that for yourself. But then there's the other side of it where it is an industry and people do make money. And so, there's constantly those conversations of what do those spaces look like?
That's good, Kimberly, because that's true. Especially I think for our younger artists that are coming out now, I see some of them get so discouraged. They'll be like, well, nobody will support me. And then you find out like, well, you've only been doing it 2 years. You know, oh, I had this really wonderful, great idea, and everybody should come on board with it and come on with it, and by golly, why aren't they? It's just like you said, just keep pushing, keep getting out there, keep doing what you need to do to get the people and the support that you need.
Yes.
So that you can do what you need to do. And I think that, like you said, our documenting what we've done and how we've done it helps us also to get to that need and get that met, because we can look back at what you did, what worked, what didn't work, so that you can change it. We did a lot of revisions along the way. You know, every year looked at this and, let's, okay, that didn't work. Let's do this. So being an artist is enjoyable, but sometimes it's hard work. It's because you sometimes have to do things when it's your art, because you just have to do things because you have to do it because that's who you are, whether you get paid or not. And so that's the one thing we have in common as artists, is that, look, whether we get paid or not, we got to do it.
That's right. I mean, let's think about like Vincent van Gogh was my favorite artist for a long time as a kid. And part of that was because it's sad that I still look at it like that, but he had a very rough life and he was not a very happy person. Not only did he deal with a lot of mental health, but he was poor for most of his career, didn't have a lot of friends, struggled a lot. His art did not become what it is today in the public eye until he passed away. And so, like, just thinking about that, like you're saying, he didn't really get to benefit, so to speak, at least financially, from his art. But all of us, look at how influential he is, and that's just one example. That's just the person I thought of when you said that. But when you are talking about, you made an excellent point. You were paying money out of your pocket. You were doing stuff without getting financial support. Same for me. And I'm sure I know Shelby, you mentioned Shelby, a lot of pro bono work. I did a lot of volunteerism. People don't understand that. You don't just jump into something and all of a sudden you're big and you're making money. And I think also the internet has done us a huge disservice in that way, social media, because we do see people who are sort of appearing to become instantly famous. But even a lot of them have been doing stuff for a long time. And it's not until that, it becomes viral or whatever. And then like now it's a thing, but that's still not going to be the majority of us. So how do you push for that in your own community? How do you start where you are? Why does everything have to be? Yes, you can think grand, but everything's not going to start grand. So what's wrong with starting, with the 100 followers you have? That's still art, and it's still something that's impactful and beautiful. It's impactful for those 100 people.
And not only is it impactful for them, it's impactful in general to the public at large, So for the artists that, I try to tell artists all the time, don't get so cocky.
Yes.
Like I'll tell actors and stuff, audition. Even if you don't think you're going to get it, it keeps you sharp. It helps you keep sharp, because I tell people, if you think that some people just get cocky and they won't, like, I won't do anything if I don't get paid, or you know what I'm saying, and it's just like, especially in the artist world, there's so many other people standing behind you,
absolutely
waiting to jump right in there, because we have to do it. And it's not that they're so while you're standing here sometimes saying you're not going to do things because you didn't get money or that you didn't get paid, or that little bitty pitty thing there. Well, you're losing opportunities to network with people. You're losing opportunities to have people see who you are. You're losing opportunities for people to get to hear what it is you're trying to say and what you want to do. So by not being a person that volunteers your time sometimes, it's detrimental to your movement and your whole cause.
When you're working for free and you're out there, people trust you. You know, you are going to more than likely get that paid gig because somebody's going to tell somebody word of mouth, which I think is the best form of recruiting business. Someone's going to tell someone, yeah, she came to my event and was there promptly. She was professional. She did everything well. We didn't even pay her, you know, and that'll be the same person who will coach someone else. Yeah, well, you need to pay her because I know you have money, so you're going to have to pay her. And that's exactly what happened in my situations. Was I wasn't taking it for money, but I actually got more gigs and got more opportunities and was put in more circles because I was willing to do the things that, like you said, I wanted to do it. And I would say being strategic about it. I think when people think about volunteerism and pro bono work, sometimes it's just kind of like, it's a free for all. I'm just going to do everyone. And that's not exactly how that works at all. I know like one strategy, and develop your own, I'm saying this to the audience, but one strategy I had in my graphic design / photography business was I actually picked a couple of organizations a year. I very intentionally picked organizations that I either had volunteered with or I knew of their work through another artist that I was working with. And so that's, I had a very strong relationship with Transit Arts and Central Community House at one point, and that's directly because of BHB, DJ BHB, which a lot of people know in the community. Met him through the Hip Hop Expo, completely blown away by how wonderful of a businessman he is. He's a phenomenal creative. Oh my gosh, he's like still the best DJ I know. And he dances and he performs, you know, it's just like, he's so multi-talented. But from building a connection with him, he works with Transit Arts. That's how I got into Transit Arts. I did volunteerism with them for like 7 years. That turned into me getting on their board. I mean, you know, just seeing like all of that just from meeting BHB and having that relationship. So it's strategic. And that was one of the organizations that I picked. I said, I love the work that you all do. I want to be a part of this. I want to support you. And it was very intentional. And so they were one of the 2 organizations I did free work for.
All right. This has been a really great, fun time and very informative. Very informative. Before we leave, I always like for my guests to give a word of encouragement to anybody that's listening. And it can be about anything that we've talked about today.
Okay. This will be one of those things I'm sure I'll reflect later, like, oh, I should have said that and I should have said that. But the first thing that comes to mind is I want everybody to realize that they are important. It doesn't matter if people around you are telling you that or not. You should know that for yourself. And I'm telling you right now. And whether or not I know you, if you're hearing my voice, I want you to know you're in my positive thoughts and my prayers all the time. And I want you to know that I love you and I love the art that's in you. And I want you to bring it out. And I hope that you know that for yourself. And then just secondly, to just live life and enjoy it as much as you possibly can. Take the reins. Do not be a victim. Do not have the victim mentality. Regardless of your situation, you can get out of, well, let me say you can do what it is that you want to do. And just think about it strategically, think it through. It can happen. It may not happen exactly how you assume it's going to happen, but it can happen.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Kimberly Cole, for being with me today on Let's Talk All Things Art. And I'm sure that I will be seeing you out there in the community doing your thing because you are one of our inspirational artists in Central Ohio. Thank you so much for everything.